Hello everyone, I'm HoldenOnHere, and today I wanted to dive into the world of the SCP Foundation. If you don't know what the SCP Foundation is, chances are that you've seen something from the Foundation and you didn't even know. If you've ever seen this cute little peanut guy, SCP-173, who can't move if it's being watched and will try to teleport and snap your neck if you happen to blink too often or turn away from it, or if you've heard stories about other anomalies like items and critters that don't follow the rules of nature. That could range from staircases that go on forever, or creepy machine gods that predate time itself, or beings that can warp reality with their mind. Anything that if the general population knew about would cause panic and mass hysteria, and probably a lot of death and destruction. So in order to keep all of these anomalies from wreaking havoc, the SCP Foundation researches paranormal activity and hides everything they can from the public. And so with all of that lore, you can kind of see how this kind of thing would blow up on the internet. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have joined in this kind of collaborative writing style to tell many tales, and there's also been countless short films and video games inspired by various different SCPs and the SCP Foundation. In fact, we actually just played one of the most popular ones, SCP Secret Laboratory, with our community on the Time to Grind channel, where you can play in these massive lobbies and take turns being guards, scientists, or even the different SCPs themselves. I also remember playing the original SCP Containment Breach at my friend's house as a kid and being terrified by the little peanut dude himself, and it just fond, scary memories. And I guess you could say that all of that got me in a very SCP mood, and so I asked my community on Discord to recommend me some of the best SCP stories out there so I could do some research and present some of my favorites to you all. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the very first person to mention anything about SCPs or the like was a user on 4chan, now known as Wesley Williams, going under at the time pseudonym Moto42, and they wrote this. From the files of Site-19, 2007, 6/22 at 1:40, SS Walrus. Item number SCP-173. Special Containment Procedures. Item SPC-173 is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time, and the door is to be relocked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must be looking at SCP-173 until all personnel have vacated and relocked the container. Description. Moved to Site-19, 1993, little is known about item number SCM's-173's origins. It is constructed from concrete and rebar and was once painted with Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and malevolent. If given the chance, it will kill anyone within its line of sight. Its weakness, however, is that it does not move while being watched. Despite this paralysis, it is still highly dangerous, able to cover at least 2 meters in the literal blink of an eye. It typically kills by either snapping the victim's neck from behind or grabbing the victim's throat and strangling him. Whatever animates SCP-173 does not give it much force with which to break things. As seen above, a large room with unbarred windows is fully capable of containing it. Its grip, however, is unbreakable, as when it is not moving, the statue is as hard and strong as concrete. While left alone in its room, one can hear a stone-on-stone scraping from within that is believed to be the sound of SCP-173 moving about. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood. We don't know nor wish to find out where it comes from or how it arrives, but SCP-173's container will slowly fill with these substances. In order to ensure that bacterial growth within does not begin to damage the building it is contained in, and to maintain some level of sanitation, the enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. And at the time, people were sharing images of a sculpture by Izumi Kato, and that's what gave SCP-173 the peanut look you see in a lot of games, but there have also been many other interpretations of how the SCP looks. And as more and more SCPs were created, the language used to describe SCP-173 changed slightly to sound more professional, and it was classified as a Euclid object class. And this would be a good time to discuss what the different object classes are, as every anomaly contained by the Foundation has an assigned object class which helps describe how hard it is to contain each individual SCP. The most common classes are Safe, meaning it is not hard at all to contain that SCP, Euclid, which SCP-173 is, meaning containment is more complex, and then Keter, or Keter, however you want to pronounce it, meaning containment is very, very hard. And so SCP-173 to this day is the highest rated page on the SCP Foundation website, and for good reason. It encompasses perfectly the what the fuck kind of feeling you should get when reading or hearing about many of these SCPs. And there are thousands and thousands of different SCPs written by the community, and now that you know a little bit about the SCP Foundation, I want to go over just a couple specific SCPs that absolutely terrified me, and ones that you probably would not want to approach. And so this is the page for SCP-2774 on the SCP Foundation website. I'll obviously put a link to that in the description down below so you can read any of these and the thousands of other stories on the website. But for item SCP-2774, Object Class Keter, so hard to contain, and Special Containment Procedures. All instances of SCP-2774 are to be destroyed upon recovery. Web crawler A03G32 has been set to monitor and scan all forms of online visual media for SCP-2774-A and alert recovery teams upon detection. Teams are assigned to monitor internet and live television for SCP-2774-A. If detected, recovery teams are to be dispatched immediately. Oh! Ah! Just kidding, but any personnel who are exposed to an instance of SCP-2774 for more than 5 seconds are to be issued Class C amnesiacs and temporarily relocated to Site-116. Due to the nature of SCP-2774, it is recommended that researchers assigned to SCP-2774 have some form of durotanopia, which is red-green color blindness. So hope you haven't been looking at this photo too much, by the way. So recovery teams are working to recover those affected by SCP-2774 and relocate them to Site-116 and test for a possible cure. Until one is discovered, Site-116 will serve as a permanent residency for all affected persons. Approval for testing subjects in Site-116 must come from the Ethics Committee and Site Overseer Dr. Martin. Subjects kept at Site-116 are to maintain not limited, but now no contact with personnel unless approved by the proper parties. And then we see here striked out text that says subjects kept at Site-116 are to be allowed 2 hours a day of social interaction with other subjects. 30 minutes will be designated to the following: breakfast, lunch, courtyard, and dinner. Subjects are not to be allowed to wander outside of the designated social areas or stay in groups larger than 5. And now it says subjects will be contained in Euclid level humanoid containment cells as of 10/15/2010. Subjects are not to have social interaction of any kind. In addition, subjects must not leave their cells until further notice. And so already you can kind of see why I absolutely love the SCP stories, is they're all kind of written in this like top secret way where it feels like you're reading information that the general public wouldn't have, but there's still going to be like redacted information and updated information and just all of this stuff that kind of keeps the mystery going. And so now for the description of this SCP. SCP-2774 is any medium which contains SCP-2774-A. SCP-2774-A is a mimetic image of an unknown humanoid entity, presumably wearing a sloth costume. Effects of viewing SCP-2774 set in between 40 and 100 hours after exposure to SCP-2774-A. Those affected will begin to lose the ability to use cognitive functions or make higher level decisions, except for a period lasting around 150 seconds every 24 hours. This period occurs randomly. SCP-277-A manifests itself in various forms of non-live media, including movies, television, magazines, your favorite YouTuber HoldenOnHere, and in some cases, personally recorded videos or pictures. SCP-2774-A is typically located in the background of whatever media it appears in, ricin. To date, there have been no instances of SCP-2774 on the internet. A single incident in northern Canada where SCP-2774-A appeared on live local television resulted in the relocation of over 4,000 people to Site 116. And so obviously, you know, you're starting to see the power and the level of power of the SCP Foundation, where they can relocate thousands of people in these incidents in order to, contain the SCP and also keep them all a secret. The image only retains its anomalous properties if the image contains hues of red or green. Therefore, those with deuteranopia or other forms of color blindness are not affected by the SCP-2774. And I think it does say somewhere that the photo that you guys are seeing right now has been removed the colors, so it's safe to see. Or is it? I don't know. SCP-2774-A is believed to possess mimetic properties that are enhanced based on the number of people it affects. Manifestations of SCP-2774-A appear to become more frequent as the number of living victims increases. After the implementation of Protocol XXJ9, reports of manifestation dropped significantly. Tests show that, including the colorblind, SCP-2774 does not affect the majority of people who view it. It is estimated that under 40% of those exposed to SCP-2774 are actually affected. This percentage is also directly affected by the number of living SCP-2774-A victims. When subjects to SCP-2774-A's effect, victims appear to move normally based on muscle memory, albeit with slowed reaction times. They are very passive and compliant with personnel, willing to answer basic questions and follow commands, though they display a lack of emotion. While they appear conscious, victims cannot control their actions in any way during this time. Victims, upon entering their 150 seconds of lucidity, are often highly agitated and fearful. Victims may act irrationally while lucid. Those affected report complete memory of time spent without cognitive function, but no ability to comprehend their actions or affect them in any way. Upon initial realization of regained cognitive abilities, most express dread upon realizing the permanence of their situation. In numerous instances, those affected by SCP-2774 report observing SCP-2774-A while their body is acting autonomously. Perception of reality appears to be lost during that time. Subjects are to be considered unstable when conscious and are to be and no longer to be approached with care, not to be approached at any time. Those who have been resettled to Site 116 have displayed an affinity to SCP-2774-A. Art, literature, and effigies of SCP-2774-A can commonly be found hoarded in the corners of subjects' rooms. All objects are presumed to have been created while unconscious. And instead of it saying these objects are commonly traded between subjects during free hours, any such items are to be removed and incinerated, and their creators terminated, along with any subjects seen emulating SCP-2774-A. And then a lot of these pages and writings will have like different interviews and things like that, right? And I'm not going to go into all of this because this video would be way too long, but definitely let me know if you want to see, some more content where we're going more into deep dives. But that is SCP-2774, right? A perfect example of just one of these really just weird, chilling stories that you wouldn't be able to explain, right? And it just kind of feels bigger than life. This image that if you see, you'll be infected 40 to 100 hours later, but only potentially, and then the Foundation's gonna come and grab you, and all of this just adds to the mystery of what is going on, right? And then seeing pieces of information that have been redacted or changed makes it feel more real. Another SCP you would want to keep your distance from for sure is SCP-4666. This is a possible photograph of SCP-4666 recovered from a cell phone at the location of Washnach Event 057130. So SCP-4666 is another Keter object class. and the special containment procedures, web traffic and law enforcement channels worldwide are to be monitored for evidence of SCP-4666 activity, and particularly for cases of stalking or reports of anomalous phenomena involving families with young children. Should a Wijnach event be suspected to be in progress, the nearest containment task force is to be dispatched to attempt containment of SCP-4666. Standard PDP V3 humanoid first contact protocols apply. Media coverage of family deaths attributed to SCP-4666 is to be suppressed or falsified to make said deaths appear as non-anomalous home invasion murders. Forensic evidence and SCP-466A instances collected by non-Foundation agencies are to be confiscated and witnesses amnesticized. So more examples of this Foundation just doing everything they can to make sure that the public doesn't know about these things. And for the description, SCP-466 is currently believed to be a single, exceptionally long-lived humanoid entity of unknown origin. Survivors of Wijnach events typically describe SCP-4666 as a very tall, between 2 meters and 2.3 meters, elderly, male of European descent with an extremely emaciated appearance. The entity always appears completely naked, even when observed outdoors in freezing weather. Though the nature and extent of its anomalous properties remain uncertain, SCP-4666 appears capable of instantaneous or near instantaneous travel to any location north of 40 north latitude and possibly to any location on Earth, which those are two very different things, but SCP-4666 activity occurs exclusively within a period of 12 consecutive nights every year, from the night of December 21 to 22 to the night of January 1st to January 2nd. This period is known as SCP-4666 activity phase. During this phase, in what are named Wijnach events, SCP-4666 will appear at dwellings in one or multiple locations north of 40 north latitude. In all known Wijnach events, these dwellings have shared the following characteristics: isolated rural location, home to a family with at least one child under the age of 8, and situated in an area with snow cover lasting throughout the duration of the event. Wijnach events consist of the following general progression. Nights 1 through 7, children will report seeing SCP-4666 in the vicinity of their family's dwelling. The entity will typically be observed watching the dwelling from a distance, such as from across a nearby field or from the edge of a neighboring forest. In some cases, children will report waking up at night to find SCP-4666 watching them sleep through a window. Nights 8 through 11. Family members, including parents, will report sounds of footsteps coming from the roof or the attic. An extremely unpleasant odor will also frequently be noticed inside the dwelling. No cause for these phenomena will be found. As a result, parents will often begin to suspect that their family is being stalked, or even that their dwelling might be haunted. And on night 12, over the course of the night, one of two scenarios will occur. The first and most common is that SCP-4666 will kill all members of the family, save for one child under the age of 8, whom it will abduct. SCP-4666 will inflict incapacitating injuries to family members while they are sleeping and herd them into a single room of the dwelling, where it will proceed to kill them in view of each other. The method of killing varies with the event and will typically be preceded by some form of torture, which appears to serve a ritualistic purpose. See the Wijnach events log below, which we will hear in a second. In the second scenario, which has occurred in roughly 15% of known Wijnach events, SCP-4666 will not harm the family. Family members will report hearing footsteps inside their dwelling during the night, though no signs of forced entry will be found. In the morning, children will discover presents at the foot of their beds. These will consist of toys crudely crafted from the remains of human children. The criteria, if any, by which SCP-466 determines the outcome are unknown. And so here are some logs of notable Wijnot events here. So we have one in 1498 in an unknown village, unconfirmed. An entire family was killed with the exception of one of the children who was abducted. Though specific details about the events are not available in recovered documents, it was noted that the killings presented strong paganistic elements and the family members had been made to suffer greatly prior to death. The Archbishop who oversaw the investigation wrote that he believed the family had been killed as part of a demonic ritual, right? And we have several of them. The most recent here being in Iceland in 1996. An entire family was killed with the exception of the youngest child, a female age of 4, who was abducted. The bodies of the parents and 7 other children were found inside their house. All had large pieces of skin removed from their backs, necks, and groins prior to death. Removed skin was found to have been partially consumed. They had been killed by decapitation with a bucksaw that had belonged to the family. Following death, the family members' headless bodies had been carried to their respective rooms and placed on their beds. Each of the removed heads had also been placed upright on a step of the staircases leading from the first to the second floor, with the parents' head on the top 2 steps and the children's heads on the lower steps, decreasing order of age. And then in one of the instances of, toys, one of the earliest ones here in Finland in 1811, a small wooden drum with 2 wooden drumsticks of uneven length. Drum skin consisted of a 390 centimeter piece of skin belonging to a human child stretched with thread made from human tendons. And in 2006 in the Netherlands, a hairbrush. The handle is made of wood and poorly carved. In place of bristles, 43 deciduous human teeth have been set at irregular intervals into the handle. DNA testing revealed that each tooth belongs to a different child. Only 2 of the teeth could be matched to known abduction victims of SCP-4666. Teeth vary in age from a few days to over 400 years. And so having these accounts of both instances of the murders and then instances of the gifts, right? When you have all of these different kind of like, almost like just, it's like a log and we're looking at all of the evidence that has happened on this SCP. And it's one of the reasons I love them, because it just makes it feel so real. And so those were both very horrifying, right? Definitely that last one. Some of the SCPs are a lot more graphic than others, and both of those were Keter level SCPs, meaning that they are some of the hardest to contain, and the SCP-173 from earlier was just a Euclid. And so I want to now give you an example of what a safe SCP might look like, because they're not all horrifying and there are a lot of joke ones. And so here is SCP-914, as you can see, a safe object class, and we can actually see an image here. One of the least complex sections of SCP-914 in a non-active state. So you probably have a lot of questions. So let's just get into it here, right? So special containment procedures. Only personnel who submit a formal request and receive approval from Site Command may operate 914. SCP-914 is to be kept in Research Cell 109B with 2 guard personnel on duty at all times. Any researchers entering 109B are to be accompanied by at least 1 guard for the entirety of testing. A full list of tests to be carried out must be given to all guard personnel on duty. Any deviation from this list will result in termination of testing, forcible removal of personnel from 109B, and formal discipline at Site Command's discretion. Warning: at this time, no testing of biological matter is allowed. Refer to document 109B117, which we'll look at the end. Applying the rough setting to explosive materials is not advised. Description: SCP-914 is a large clockwork device weighing several tons and covering an area of 18 square meters, consisting of screw drives, belts, pulleys, gears, springs, and other clockwork. It is incredibly complex, consisting of over 8 million moving parts, comprised mostly of tin and copper, with some wooden and cloth items observed. Observation and probing have showed no electronic assemblies or any form of power other than the mainspring under the selection panel. 2 large booths, measuring 10 feet by 7 feet by 7 feet, are connected via copper tubes to the main body of SCP-914, labeled Intake and Outtake. Between them is a copper panel with a large knob with a small arrow attached. The words rough, coarse, 1-to-1, fine, and very fine are positioned at points around the knob. Below the knob is a large key that winds the mainspring. When an object is placed in the intake booth, a door slides shut and a small bell sounds. If the knob is turned to any position and the key wound up, SCP-914 will refine the object in the booth. No energy is lost in the process, and the object appears to have been in stasis until the output booth door is opened. Intense observation and testing have not shown how SCP-914 accomplishes this, and no test object has ever been observed inside SCP-914 during the refining process. The process takes between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on the size of the object being refined. And so here we actually have a test log that we will read, right? So on 514, Dr. Something test log inputted 1 kilograms of steel on the rough setting. The output was a pile of steel chunks of various sizes appearing to be cut by laser. Then with 1 kilogram of steel setting on 1-to-1, it gave us 1 kilogram of steel screws. 1 kilogram of steel on the fine setting gives 1 kilogram of steel carpet tacks. And then 1 kilogram of steel on the very fine outputted several gases that dissipated into the air quickly, and 1 gram of an unknown metal resistant to heat of 50,000 degrees, impossible to bend or break with any force, and a near perfect conductor of electricity. Then input 1 with a wristwatch belonging to the doctor on the coarse setting completely disassembled the wristwatch. And when a cell phone was inputted belonging to someone on the 1-to-1 setting, a different cell phone of a different make and model was outputted. When a standard Colt Python revolver was put in on the very fine setting, there's some data expunged. Aforementioned blank completely disintegrated all matter in its line of fire. Object contained with high density gamma waves. Then a white mouse on the 1-to-1 setting outputted a brown mouse. The chimp on the fine setting, we don't know what happened. 1 chimp on the rough setting had a badly mutilated corpse showing signs of crushing and cutting with high heat. We then have a document 109B117 from Doctor and Doctor's test log. As mentioned earlier, input a subject D186, a male Caucasian, 42 years old, 108 kilograms, 185 centimeters tall on the setting 1-to-1. The output was then a male Hispanic, 42 years old, 100 kilograms, 188 centimeters tall. Subject was very confused and agitated. Subject attacked security personnel and was terminated. When a subject D187, male Caucasian, 28, weighing 63 kilograms, 173 centimeters tall, was put in with the very fine setting, we have data expunge. Subject escaped from test chamber, killing 8 guards as well as the doctors. Lockdown initiated. Subject causes containment failure of 3 SCP areas in continued escape attempt. Special response team engages subject, resulting in severe wounding of subject, partial memory loss in special response team members, and corrosive damage to plumbing. Subject expired several hours later, dissolving into blue ash and blinding nearby a research team. Biological testing with SCP-914 discontinued. Note, because of the nature of this SCP, a wide range of test data would be helpful. Dr. Gears has ordered that any researcher can have access for non-biological testing if they themselves are or they are supervised by a level 3 researcher. All testing is to be recorded in file 9014E, which there's a whole experiment log. Biological testing will continue only with prior clearance by O5 command. As long as you want to try something mundane that isn't alive, feel free to accumulate data. And so this is an example of, even though this was a safe SCP in terms of being contained, there can still be some pretty horrifying things. I mean, there's still so much intrigue. You know, we have the documentation of the inputs and outputs and what setting it was put on, but some of this is, censored, and we don't have all of the data. And then it's like, what happened to cause that huge lockdown experience and everything that was going on, right? What happened there? How is this happening? What is this machine? It's just everything that you read just causes you to have a million other questions. And now for one final SCP that you would most definitely not want to approach is one that I wanted to include because it really shows just the differences in so many of these SCPs. And so this is SCP-3008, which is a Euclid object class. Special containment procedures. The retail park containing SCP-3008 has been purchased by the Foundation and converted into Site Redacted. All public roads leading to or passing by Site blank have been redirected. The entrance to SCP-3008 is to be monitored at all times, and no one is to enter SCP-3008 outside of testing as permitted by the senior researcher. Humans exiting SCP-3008 are to be detained and then debriefed prior to the administration of amnesiacs. Dependent upon the duration of their stay in SCP-3008, a cover story may need to be generated prior to their release. Any other entities exiting SCP-3008 are to be terminated. And so what is SCP-3308? It is a large retail unit previously owned by and branded as IKEA, a popular furniture retail chain. A person entering SCP-3008 through the main entrance and then passing out of sight of the doors will find themselves translocated to SCP-3008-1. The displacement will typically go unnoticed as no change will occur from the perspective of the victim. They will generally not become aware until they try to return to the entrance. SCP-3008-1 is a space resembling the inside of an IKEA furniture store, extending far beyond the limits of what could physically be contained within the dimensions of the retail unit. Current measurements indicate an area of at least 10 kilometers squared, with no visible external terminators detected in any direction. Inconclusive results from the use of laser rangefinders has led to the speculation that the space might be infinite. SCP-3008-1 is inhabited by an unknown number of civilians trapped within prior to containment. Gathered data suggests they have formed a rudimentary civilization within SCP-3008-1, including the construction of settlements and fortifications for the purpose of defending against SCP-3008-2. SCP-3008-2 are humanoid entities that exist within SCP-3008-1. While superficially resembling humans, they possess exaggerated and inconsistent bodily proportions, often described as being too short or too tall. They possess no facial features, and in all observed cases wear a yellow shirt and blue trousers consistent with the IKEA employee uniform. SCP-3008-1 has a rudimentary day-night cycle determined by the overhead lighting within the space activating and deactivating at times consistent with the opening and closing times of the original retail store. During the night, instances of SCP-3008-2 will become violent towards all other life forms within SCP-3008-1. During these bouts of violence, they have been heard to vocalize phrases in English that are typical variations of "the store is now closed, please exit the building." Once day begins, SCP-3008-2 instances immediately become passive and begin moving throughout SCP-3008-1 seemingly at random. They are unresponsive to questioning or other verbal cues in this state, though will react violently if attacked. SCP-3008-1 is known to have one or more exits located within, though these exits do not appear to have a fixed position, making it difficult to leave SCP-3008-1 once inside. Using any other door besides the main entrance to enter the structure or breaking through the walls of the retail unit leads into the non-anomalous interior of the original store. Since containment began, 14 individuals have managed to exit SCP-3008. Following extensive debriefing, all individuals have been administered amnesiacs and released. And then there was an incident, 3008-1. At 0037 on blank blank 2000 and blank, a human male exited SCP-3008, followed 10 seconds later by an instance of SCP-3008-2. SCP-3008-2 caught and killed the man before itself being terminated by armed response personnel. This incident represents the only time an instance of SCP-3008-2 has been seen exiting SCP-3008. A full autopsy on the corpse corpse was performed. See the autopsy log for more details. The man was carrying an IKEA branded journal, seeming to document his time in the SCP-3008 transcribed below. And so, you have whole things. Once again, I mean, you could just have entire stories and short films written about all of these things. But I'm sure this video is already getting a little bit too long, and that wasn't, the scope of this video. But it's just crazy, right? You have these things like, so there's an IKEA building, right? And if you enter via the front door, you get teleported to like an infinite backrooms-esque IKEA with these humanistic, exaggerated feature IKEA workers that will attack you during the night. And then just crazy things like if you try to enter that SCP, enter the IKEA via anything other than the main entrance, it just shows you what the original IKEA used to be. So it's like, is there a portal? What is going on here? And it just once again adds to the mystery of these SCPs. And obviously, I'm only scratching the surface of the SCP Foundation. Like I mentioned earlier, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of these SCP stories written. There's all these other lores like, SCP-01. There is no actual SCP-01. Instead, there's a lot of like suggestions of what the first SCP, it could be. And so there's just so many different things. So if you guys did enjoy this video and potentially want to hear more about SCPs, definitely let me know. If you're still watching at this point, thank you so much for watching and clicking on this video. I'm trying to experiment and have fun with a bunch of different videos, on this channel. And this is kind of like the second video essay style video we've done. The first one was that doubloon cat video. So if you want to see more content like this or more content, pertaining to SCPs, definitely let me know. And also huge shout out to Wendigoon for being a huge source of inspiration for these types of videos. If you haven't seen his channel, you definitely need to. I think he's done 2 or 3 SCP videos as well. So let me know in 40 to 100 hours if you're still alive after, and functioning after seeing the image I presented to you earlier. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this as interesting as I did. Definitely let me know if you'd like to see more content like this. If you have any SCPs that, you want me to potentially mention or you want to let people know, definitely let us know in the comments down below. And I'm sure there'll be more fun content somewhere on the screen here. And if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and leaving a like. We're trying to get this channel caught up to my main channel, Time to Grind. Like I said, there's that other SCP video that we did gaming wise. Otherwise, I'm holding on here, just holding on here like y'all. I don't remember how I end these videos, and I'll see you all next time.